Welcome to The Explainer. You probably don't think much about the partitions in a public restroom, unless they're bad, right? Well, choosing them is a huge deal. It affects everything: user comfort, maintenance, the whole vibe of the place. So today, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know to get it right. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why these things even matter so much. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the materials you can choose from, and the non-negotiable ADA rules. After that, we'll look at style and privacy. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a super practical guide to actually buying them. So, Section 1, the world of partitions. And believe me, it really is a whole world. It's so much more than just putting up a box for privacy. So why do they matter so much? Think about it. The stalls are one of the first things you interact with in a restroom. They send an immediate message about cleanliness, about safety, about how much the owner cares. And if you're the building owner, this is a serious long-term investment that has to take a beating day in and day out. Getting this right, it's absolutely crucial for your users and your budget. Okay, let's dive into the core decision you're gonna have to make: the material. Honestly, this one choice is probably the biggest one. It's gonna dictate your cost, how long the stalls last, and how much work they are to maintain. And this chart just lays it all out so perfectly. You've got the four main players right here, and you can see the trade-offs at a glance. You've got your budget-friendly workhorse, your super tough waterproof option, a high-performance beast, and of course the high-end classic. Let's dig into each one. First up, powder-coated steel. This is probably the one you see most often, and for good reason. It's the budget-friendly champ. It's basically steel with a tough, baked-on paint finish. Perfect for places that stay pretty dry, like offices or restaurants. The only catch? You really don't want to put this in a super damp or wet environment. It's just not built for that. Then you have solid plastic, or HDPE. Now, this stuff is the undisputed champion of durability. I mean, it is a total beast. The color goes all the way through the material, so scratches barely show. And water? It just laughs at water. It's completely waterproof. That's why you see it everywhere, in gyms, schools, pools, places where things get wet and take a lot of abuse. Now we're getting into the really high-performance stuff, phenolic. You might hear it called black core because of the dark edge. They make it by squishing a bunch of resin-soaked paper under crazy amounts of heat and pressure. What you get is something that is incredibly dense, super durable, and highly water-resistant. This is what you want for a place with massive foot traffic, like a stadium or a convention center. And finally, the sleek, timeless classic, stainless steel. This is the top of the mountain. It just looks fantastic, and it's amazing at resisting rust and corrosion. When you're going for that really premium, high-end look in an airport, a fancy office building, or a nice restaurant, this is the way to go. It just screams quality. All right, so you've got your material picked out. The next piece of the puzzle is absolutely non-negotiable. You have to get the ADA requirements right. We're talking about the Americans with Disabilities Act, and this isn't optional, it's the law. So what does ADA compliant actually mean? Well, it's not just a buzzword, it's a very specific set of rules for things like floor space, door width, and even the type of hardware you use. The whole point is to make sure that anyone with a disability can use the restroom safely and easily. So let's look at the numbers you absolutely have to know. The first magic number is 60 inches. That is the absolute minimum widths you need inside an accessible stall. And there's a really good reason for it. That space is designed so a wheelchair has enough room to pull up right next to the toilet. It's all about providing that crucial clear floor space. The next critical number is 36 inches. This is the minimum clear opening for the door. Now that's an important distinction. It's not the width of the door itself, but the actual space a person has to get through when the door is open. Again, it's all about making sure a wheelchair can pass through without any hassle. Okay, and here's something a lot of people mix up. You need to know the difference between an ADA accessible stall and an ambulatory stall. The big accessible stall is for wheelchairs, but if you have 6 or more stalls in a restroom, you also need an ambulatory one. That one's a bit narrower, and it's designed for people who might use crutches or a walker. They both need grab bars, but they serve different needs and are definitely not interchangeable. Okay, so we've covered the tough stuff, materials, and legal requirements. Now we get to the fun part, refining the look and feel with different styles, privacy options, and how the whole thing is mounted. So So how do these things actually attach to the building? You've got three main ways. First is overhead braced. That's the one you see almost everywhere. It's anchored to the floor and has a brace running across the top. Super common, super economical. Then there's floor to ceiling, which gives you this really clean, solid look because it's anchored at both the top and bottom. And finally, you have ceiling hung. This is the super modern floating look. It's amazing for cleaning the floors, but, and this is a big but, you need some serious structural support up in the ceiling to hold it all up. And let's talk about a trend that everyone can get behind: privacy. Let's be honest, nobody likes those big, awkward gaps you can see through. The good news is the industry's moving away from that. The future is all about privacy. Things like full-length hinges and special strips that block sightlines. It just makes for a way more comfortable and secure experience for everyone.
All right, we've gone through the what, the why, and the how. Now for the final section, let's bring it all home and talk about the actual buyer's journey. How do you go from having a plan to having partitions installed?
Think of this as your personal roadmap. Seriously, just follow these steps and you won't miss a thing. You nail down your material based on how the bathroom will be used, you confirm all your ADA stuff, then you pick the style. Oh, and here's a pro tip. Always get your hands on physical samples of the colors and materials. Don't just look at them online. Then, when you get a quote, make sure you understand the installation process and how long it's all going to take. And there you have it. You are now officially armed with everything you need to know to dive into the world of commercial toilet partitions. It's all about balancing those key things: durability, cost, the legal stuff, and of course, the design. If you do that, you're going to make a choice that works for your building and for everyone who uses it for a long, long time. So, the only question left is, what are you going to build?